So bear with me as I talk about this article from International Business Times. And it's really dealing with Massachusetts politics, which is surprising to me. I don't really get involved. I'm in Boston, but I don't really get involved with the local politics much because I'm just observing. I'm watching. I'm listening. I'm learning more. I don't know a lot about Massachusetts enough to be an expert on Massachusetts, but I do know that Massachusetts is a lot more conservative than most people would ever believe. Massachusetts has some sincerely conservative pockets that are not just center right conservative, but extreme conservative. Put it like this: if you listen to the local radio station this morning going into work, you would hear people justifying Donald Trump's campaign manager justifying his assault of a woman, saying that she was in the wrong and the campaign manager was in the right. There's a strong Donald Trump contingency here in Massachusetts, which blows me away. I mean, he won the state by leaps and bounds. There's a lot of conservatism right here in the state of Massachusetts, which is indicative or the best indicator of that rather is Charlie Baker, a Republican, won the most recent governorship. And it's in this story, it's the context of Governor Baker, that the story from GE is really fascinating. GE is looking to move from Connecticut. And from Connecticut, they are moving here to Boston on the promises of about $140 million in tax subsidies. Now, that's problematic in and of itself. But this is in the middle of a fight with the EPA. The EPA imposed fines on GE because of certain carcinogens that they allowed to leak in their past relationship in West Massachusetts. At the time of the leak, they were fined. They had a settlement of $250 million. In 2014, they decided that there needs to be a $615 million additional charge to move the toxins out of the state, right? They cleaned it up. Now they need to move it out of the state. GE said, no, we're not going to do that. In the middle of this very bitter fight over an issue that is very sensitive here in Massachusetts, Governor Baker has given the green light to GE to come to the state of Massachusetts and receive over I just lost the number that quick, $140 million worth of tax subsidies. So it shows you the emphasis. And now it's not just Governor Baker who's involved in this decision. Of course, Marty Walsh, who is the mayor of Boston, he's involved in it. He's a Democrat. He's involved in this decision. And so they're coming, and they're not only coming and taking tax subsidies, which is going to obviously take away from so many other programs, right? We'll talk about that portion in a second. But they're also coming on the backs of the EPA, refusing to remove the toxins, remove the carcinogens that they have been found guilty, and actually pled a settlement with, or agreed to a settlement with the EPA. Just shows you the priority. Now, it's a deeper connection because GE is a part of a particular political action committee that donated. All right, I'm sorry, let me put that in the correct order. GE donated $125,000 to the campaign of Governor Charlie Baker through a political action committee. And so that's just how the system works. I don't understand why it's not rocket science, or why it seems to be rocket science, particularly for progressives, when we complain about it happening on the conservative end of the spectrum all the time. Everybody knows that this $125,000 that Charlie Baker received from GE absolutely contributed to the decision that he made to bring in GE. Now, I want to talk about the fact that this is going to take jobs away from Connecticut, right? I want to talk about the fact that this $140 million, they could spend that locally on a lot of programs, in a lot of different ways, but they're giving it in exchange for GE to come to Boston. So we're robbing Connecticut to pay Massachusetts, to pay Boston in particular, but we're also robbing the people of Boston with $140 million worth of tax subsidies to give it to GE. And someone is going to make the argument that this campaign contribution of $125 had nothing to do with it. Matter of fact, if you believe Hillary Clinton, you can receive not only campaign contributions, but you can receive speaking fees, speaking royalties, and not be affected by the desires of these companies. What's going to be extremely difficult to do is, let's say peradventure Hillary Clinton wins, how is she going to make the argument against someone like Charlie Baker, who received $125,000 in campaign cash and then has issued or is ushering in rather this relationship with GE to the detriment to the tune of $140 million of tax subsidies? How is she going to convince anybody that that was wrong when she herself is doing the same thing? And I think that's one of the main things that I have with the broader election as a whole, is that we're sacrificing quite a few conservative, rather progressive principles in order to justify or in order to make ourselves comfortable with Hillary Clinton's positions. We're exchanging our beliefs in order to justify our support for Hillary Clinton. And obviously, when I say our, I'm not talking about me, and I'm probably not talking about you. But that's the thing. That's what's so troubling about this, is that we are selling out our values, and we're not going to be able to stand on those values when it comes time to, and I guess to a certain extent, they don't care, because they like the system exactly the way it is. Corporation wants X, corporation pays politician Y. Politician Y makes sure that X happens. But somehow we're supposed to believe that the $125,000 that Charlie Baker received is not does not have any influence on his decision to bring GE in, despite the fact that they still have this confrontation going on with the EPA over the state of Massachusetts. Which takes me to the second part. This entire race to the bottom of our current economic system, it is a race to the bottom. And I'm gonna unpack this a little bit more on another show when I actually get time to do deeper research. But do you understand, when we play the game of which city, which state, or which country is going to offer corporations the largest tax subsidy, it is ultimately a race to the bottom, because as low as you will go on terms of the tax burden, or as high as you're willing to go in terms of what you're going to give away in tax subsidies, the next state is going to have to go even lower on the tax burden and even higher on the tax subsidies that they give to the corporations. And as soon as you do that, give it about 10 or 15 years, there's going to be another state that's going to undercut you. And so now we've undercut Connecticut. Connecticut is going to lose jobs unless they're willing to move to Massachusetts. Everybody's not going to be able to move to Massachusetts. This is just how it happens. And it happens state by state. But even more detrimental to America as a whole is when it happens nation by nation. There's a study that I went through while I was studying on my master's level, and I'm just pure recall right here. No notes on this whatsoever, so I'm going to get something wrong, but I just want to give you the context anecdotally, and we'll unpack it more later. But there was a study about all of the nations. They're called the tiger nations, and I believe Ireland is one of them. And it talks about how low they go in terms of the taxes that they charge corporations, to the extent where they are actually now losing by having these corporations come in. The net gain from the corporations coming in is actually less than what they would have gotten if they have charged a regular tax rate or a standard taxation. But they wanted to incentivize corporations to come to their nation so badly. They believe so much in this idea that corporations are going to be the engine of economic growth, or corporations are the engine of economic growth to the detriment of small businesses. They believe in that so much that they undercut themselves in order to outbid other nations. And you did see a confluence. You saw hundreds of corporations flood to these nations, but the net benefit to the nation was marginal at best. In actuality, they lost. And there is there's an article that I read, and I'm going to find it. I just, like I said, this is pure recall, but it just discusses how this is ultimately a race to the bottom. Because for every state and every nation that is going to lower their tax burden that they place on corporations, there's another one coming behind them. And how far will you go? How low can you ultimately go with this? I mean, are you going to charge? When you're giving away tax subsidies, there's a good chance you have a zero tax burden on them. They're going to get a net benefit in terms of taxation. So what are they contributing? Are they contributing jobs? Great. Sure. What type of jobs? Are those jobs bringing in enough income and enough? See, we're shifting the entire burden. The entire burden is being shifted to the working force. And this is one of those conversations we probably could benefit with charts, because you see the corporation no longer has the tax burden. The tax burden has been shifted completely to the workers, to labor. But yet, this is the model that we chase after all around the world, because we really believe that the side of capital, as long as we incentivize capital, jobs will be created, no matter what those jobs pay, no matter what the net benefit, not only economic benefit, but the net social benefit that that company has, no matter how that company treats its workers, no matter if those corporations end up having workers, maybe not GE, but other corporations who have workers that are going to depend on the safety net. And now you've taken $140 million, let's say, out of Boston, out of Massachusetts. Your safety net is not as strong as it used to be. We're bending over backwards. And this is something that you hear Bernie Sanders talk about all the time. We're bending over backwards for corporations. And somebody needs to take a minute and really examine, or just draw the conclusion and realize that the net gain from drawing all of these corporations and just rolling out the red carpet to these corporations is not beneficial to your community, to your society, to your nation. That's all I've got to say about that. I'll pull some charts out for that on the next call, on the next show. All right.